Jason Ravenel. All right. The first words I wanted to say was Jason Ravenel. That's my cousin slash brother, and he's the one who asked me to do this talk for his job. He wanted me to speak about Juneteenth in African American history. So, doing this for you, Jake. First and foremost, my name is Donnell Singleton, and my son, who was just there, same name. I'm Junior, he's the third. And I'm going to use this opportunity to educate him as well, because I don't believe he's familiar with a few of these people that we're going to speak about today. And so, very quickly, a little bit about my background. I'm from Charleston, born and raised in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, 10 Mile. Went to Janie Moore, Lang, Wando. Joined the Air Force back in 97, graduated in 96. And that's when my love of history began, when I left Charleston. And the reason that happened is because I had no idea we were so different. I thought everyone ate rice every day. I thought everyone spoke the way we spoke. I thought everyone knew about sweetgrass baskets and palmetto roses. That's not the case. And so, quick story, son. In basic training, breakfast. Every morning I'm eating grits, eggs, and bacon, mixing it together. It looks nasty, but that's what we eat in Charleston. And so this guy, he's from Michigan. Can't remember his name, but I remember he said, "Singleton, what is that? Why are you eating that crap?" And I explained to him what grits were. Never heard of it. Wow. And so then, a few days later, dinner time, he just staring at me again. "Singleton, why are you eating rice every night?" He was like, "I thought that was a part of Asian culture. I didn't know black dudes ate white rice every day." And so I thought that was normal because we eat rice almost every day. And so that sparked my interest to learn more about myself. Why do we eat rice? Why do we speak this way? Oh, because that was another thing. Every time I spoke, they would ask me, "Where am I really from?" And I would say, "No, I'm from Charleston, born and raised." "Well, where are your parents from?" "Charleston." And I knew what they were saying. They always think that we're from the Caribbean. And there is a Caribbean connection with Barbados, but we born and raised right here in Charleston, Gullah Geechee. And so that was that was the spark that got me interested in history, learning about who I am, where I come from, just, learned about myself. And here are a few good books if you're from Charleston, you want to learn more about yourself. One is called The Gullah, written by Joseph Apala. And then you have another one, and she's local, Joyce Copley, wrote this book, Sweetgrass Baskets and the Gullah Tradition. Those are two quick, easy reads if you want to just learn just quick history about Charleston. And so today, what I hope to do is just bring awareness. I'm not going to sit here and talk for hours on end about history. My job is just to bring awareness and hopefully spark an interest in history the same way a simple question about rice sparked my life's journey. All right. So the topic is Juneteenth. Do you know what Juneteenth is? Mm-hmm. What is it? Slide over a little bit, Stacey. What is Juneteenth?
When the slaves were free?
When the slaves were free?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Juneteenth. First of all, it was June 19th, 1865, Galveston, Texas. And so on that day, a major general in the Union Army issued an order effectively ending the Civil War and freeing the remaining slaves who did not know that they were free. They lacked that awareness. And why are some of the reasons you think they wouldn't know that they were free?
Because they couldn't.
Did they have cell phones?
No.
Nah. Did they have cars?
No.
No. Did they know their neighbors?
No.
No. No. There are a number of reasons why. And that's why we're going to speak so much about awareness and education and how important it is. Now, Juneteenth, very important date. Another important date to remember, June 1865. No, excuse me, I always say December 1865. Because that's when the 13th Amendment was finally proclaimed. And that ended slavery officially. So that's a month we should also recognize and remember. So now, what we're going to do today, I'm going to make you aware of 3 different people from 3 different places who all had an impact on Charleston. And I'm just going to touch on them briefly. Then it's going to be up to you to go and research those people. The first person was born in Beaufort, South Carolina. Second one in Savannah, Georgia. And the third one, Daniels Island. And I bet you can't guess. Can you guess it, y'all? Dealing with the Civil War. First name Robert. Last name Smalls. That's right. Robert Smalls. He's one of the most, I'll say, prominent and most well-known African-American figures from the Civil War as it relates to Charleston. As I said, born in Beaufort, 1839. He was born a slave. However, he was treated a little differently than the other slaves. He received a little better treatment. But he saw the harsh treatment that the others received. And so he became aware that even though I'm receiving better treatment, I see what can happen. And that's important to remember for his story. All right. At age 12, Robert was sent from Beaufort to Charleston to work for one of his slave owners' family members. And so while in Charleston, he became aware of a few more things. He met free black people for the first time. Working down near downtown Charleston, he met free black people. He met slaves who they weren't independent, but had more independence than the slaves on the plantation, right? And so Robert earned his money, and all of his money was sent back to the slave owner, but he was receiving that education, and that's priceless. So he could send that money back. He was receiving the education. Now, as I said, age 12, he moved to Charleston. That seems young, right, to go work,
Yeah.
age 12? Yeah, and at age 16, he was a supervisor. That seems young for today's standards.
Yeah.
Back then, the average life expectancy for a slave, 22 years old. So he was already halfway there at 12. You see?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the national life expectancy for white civilians was around 40, so it wasn't great. It was bad regardless. But a slave could expect to live about half the life of their white counterpart. And so, Robert didn't waste any time. 17, he got married to a 30-year-old woman with 2 kids. Hannah Jones, yep. He was a confident man, strong man, confident man. And so he took on the responsibility of father, and he also started working to buy his freedom. That was his thought. I want my freedom for my wife, my kids, my family, myself. And so Robert dedicated his life to the water, learned the waterways of Charleston, learned the boats, learned everything he could, maritime knowledge. Civil War breaks out. He's working for the Confederacy. He has no choice in that matter. But that entire time, he's learning, he's watching. And so, on May 12, 1862, because of his awareness that he had gained while working, while being a child, seeing all these things that he saw, he decided that this was going to be his chance for freedom. And so Smalls, along with, I believe it was 15 total, men, women, and children, they were on a boat called a Planter, a Confederate boat. It was called the Planter, USS Planter, I believe. Robert knew that crew would be sleeping. He knew their schedule. And he also knew all the signals he would have to use to get past the Confederate lines right here in Charleston Harbor and take that boat to the Union. And so on May 12, 1862, that's exactly what he did. Yeah, it was a total of 15 men, women, and children. And so when Robert Smalls, he took the boat, did all the signals, the Confederates just let him just drive past, just sail right past. And he sailed that boat right to the Union. And this is what he said. This was his quote. "Good morning, sir. I brought you some of the old United States guns, sir." He gave them the boat. And from then he went on to serve in the Union Army. He went on to have a career in politics. And he did a lot of things, but I'm not going to tell you about it. I just wanted to make you aware of him, and now it's up to you to research him. And if you're ever in Charleston, there is a historical marker on Concord Street dedicated to Robert Smalls.
We should go see that.
I'll take you there. Yeah, it was vandalized, unfortunately, when it was first put up, but it's back in place, looking beautiful. So it's there. Now, the second person I want to make you aware of, Susie King Taylor. This is a special person. Susie King Taylor. Where's her book? Oh, before I move on, Robert Smalls. This is a great book. It's called The Life and Legacy of Robert Smalls of South Carolina's Sea Islands. And something real cool, son, that you don't know. His great-grandson, Robert Smalls' great-grandson, two of them signed this book for me.
Wow.
Yeah, see that? See those signatures in there? Right? Robert Smalls. I can't. Yeah. See that? Great-grandson signed it for me. All right. There it is. All right. Moving on. Susie King Taylor. She wrote a book of her memoirs, A Black Woman's Civil War Memoirs by Susie King Taylor. Important book. And I'm going to start with a quote first from her book. She said, "My great-great-grandmother was 120 years old when she died. She had 7 children, and 5 of her boys fought in the Revolutionary War."
Wow.
Right? She was from Virginia and was half Indian. Now, the reason why I say that this book is so important is because you won't find many books in the words of a black woman from that time period. There aren't many at all. The majority of books then and today are written by men, not women. So this is an important book because these are her words, her story, right? And so, she was born, as I said earlier, near Savannah, Georgia, on August 6, 1848. 1848. She was born a slave as well. Now, even though she was born in Georgia, her journey, her path would lead her to Charleston, South Carolina, because this is an important place, a very important place historically. Now, unlike the majority of slaves at that time, she actually learned how to read and write. There was a free black woman named Mrs. Woodhouse who taught several of the black children illegally. It was illegal. If she was caught, they would all be whipped. And so she did this because she wanted those kids to have an education and to be aware. And so I know that Susie Taylor said that one of the things they would do, they would wrap their books in white paper to hide it, because even if a white civilian saw them with those books, they could be whipped. If anybody white saw them, or black, and decided to saw them with those books, they'd be in big trouble. Big trouble. So that planted the seed in her head as to how powerful education must be. You're trying to hide it from me. We get whipped if we learn. It must be powerful. And so that's what she dedicated her life to. She dedicated her life to education, military veterans, which we're going to speak about a little bit here, and equality. And as a matter of fact, as far as the veterans go, with the Robert Smalls story, this is the uniform the Union soldiers would have wore, right here. Made out of wool. You have your jacket, your shirt, pants, your suspenders, hat, all your accessories, right? And this is the recruitment poster that they used to recruit black men into the military. And this is my old uniform from the Air Force. So you see how the evolution of uniforms went from that to this. So yeah, and Susie King Taylor was around for that one. All right, she was able to gain her freedom when the Union invaded Georgia and they attacked Fort Pulaski. And so her uncle actually rescued her along with his family, and that's how she was given her freedom. And because she was able to read and write, the Union told her, "We want you to teach the other little new free black kids how to read and write." So that's what she did, and she did that very well. And as I said, she dedicated her life to assisting the military as a nurse, laundress, counselor, teacher, anything she could do, she helped. Have you ever heard of Clara Barton in school? Did they teach you about her yet with the Red Cross? No, you will. You will learn about a lady named Clara Barton, very important lady, founded the Red Cross. She also was known for her involvement with the veterans during the Civil War. These two women, Susie King Taylor and Clara Barton, actually met. They met each other while serving the Union. But you don't really hear about Taylor. Something else, something cool. This is real cool. I'm not gonna bore you. I know you get bored. So this is a cool one. This is a cool one. the connection with Smalls, Taylor, Charleston, and how it all comes together. When Charleston was liberated, when the Union finally was able to capture Charleston, guess who was with the Union soldiers? Susie King Taylor. Susie King Taylor. Along with black regiments. And I want to read a quote for you from that, from her memoirs. She speaks about when they entered Charleston. The mayor of Charleston readily surrendered to Lieutenant Colonel A.G. Bennett of the 21st U.S. Colored Troops, who promised the assistance of the black men to the stricken people. The irony of this scene, the freed slaves now coming as victorious soldiers to the aid of the defeated. So these guys who came into the city, the black Union soldiers, were former slaves, and now their new job was to protect the white civilians of Charleston. And Susie King Taylor was with them. She was a powerful woman throughout history. And she was also married to a sergeant in the regiment. But something that's important to us right here in South Carolina, she was a part of the very first black regiment to ever be formed, which was the 1st South Carolina. The name was changed later to the, let me make sure I get it right. To the 33rd United States Colored Troops, but it was the 1st South Carolina Volunteers. And that was the first black regiment to be formed. Not the 54 Massachusetts, even though I loved them, and I used to reenact as a 54 soldier. 1st South Carolina, 1st black regiment, and also the 1st black regiment to actually fight in a battle. So South Carolina, a lot of history here, a lot to be proud of. All right. And we're going to wrap it up real quick. Taylor, as I said, dedicated her life to helping veterans, which is important to me as a veteran. She started the Women's Relief Corps, which is a national organization for female Civil War veterans. That's pretty big. That's pretty big. You know? And so what I did just now was make you aware of someone you probably weren't aware of. And this is a great read because she goes through her life as a child and details her time throughout the Civil War, all the things she saw, because she saw some horrible things, all the things she saw, witnessed, and learned. Great book, easy to read too, real easy to read. All right, the very last thing we're going to talk about, and we don't even need notes because this is going to be brief, and this is up to you people out there. We're going to talk about someone not from that Civil War era, but a little more modern. Philip Simmons, who was in the the South Carolina Hall of Fame for being a blacksmith. Yeah, he's one of the best blacksmiths to ever exist in the world, not just South Carolina. And one of the beautiful things that I know you would like and that I like about him, he was the first to incorporate nature into his ironworks. So he had birds in there, turtles, and he also incorporated religion, and he made beautiful ironworks. And the Philip Simmons ironworks that he made all by hand are littered throughout downtown Charleston. A lot of the gate works you'll see some Philip Simmons works. Yeah, you probably saw some, didn't even realize it. And that's what I want people to do when you're walking around Charleston. Let's see if I can get a nice picture of a gate. Yeah, this gate right here. This gate is either the gate that's in the airport or in the museum. But you see those egrets? It might be hard to see. Yeah, you probably can't see it. But this is a man I want you to walk away from this and go study. Oh, here go a few pictures of his gates. We're talking about those iron gates with the designs. Yeah, Philip Simmons. Look him up. Born on Daniels Island, but received his education downtown Charleston. And that's where he first learned his ironwork. He walked by a shop which was owned by a former slave. You see that connection? It's all connected. Education, awareness. As soon as Philip Simmons became aware of that he can do that, he was addicted and did it for the rest of his life. And as I said, is one of the best gate makers in the world, not just Charleston. So, If you're ever in Charleston, look up Philip Simmons. His work is everywhere. And that's going to do it for us. And again, Jason, thank you for having us. And I hope everybody learned a little bit. And thank you for your time. Give me peace out, son. All right.